Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Before we dive into today's episode, I want to let you guys know about an opportunity to learn some of the most important skills in life, if not the most important skills. And those are the skills of learning and doing so rapidly, effectively, and easily. You see, guys, I'm putting on a completely free 60-minute webinar that you guys can check out, where I will be going into my absolute best memory tips, learning tips, and speed reading tips so that you can immediately begin applying them and accelerating your learning of anything and everything. All you need to do to claim your spot in this free webinar is visit jle.vi/webinar. We have showings at many different times throughout the days for every time zone, but you have to log in and claim your spot. So that's jle.vi/webinar. And I really look forward to seeing what you guys achieve. This episode is brought to you by Organifi. You guys, one of the only things that every nutritional expert that we've had on the show seems to actually agree on is that we all need to eat more vegetables, eat more greens, eat organic, cut out all the processed junk. Well, who has the time, right? Who has the time to go out, do the shopping, make the salads, make the juices, make the smoothies? And that's what I love so much about Organifi. Their product is an all organic green juice. It has all of the nutrients that you need. It tastes absolutely amazing, and it's made by wonderful people who I consider to be personal friends. And as listeners of this show, you guys can actually save 20% on your first order. And all you have to do is go to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com and use the coupon code SUPERHUMAN at checkout. Greetings, super friends, and welcome to this week's episode. You guys, this week, we're doing something a little bit different, and it's actually the shortest episode that I have ever done. And for good reason, because as you're going to see, this episode is a bit of a rant. It's a rant on something that all of you are doing right now, which is using your phone, using your technology. I wanted to write a post about a really interesting accidental experiment that I conducted without even realizing, of course, that I was conducting this experiment on myself and the very profound effect that it's had on me. I started to write, and what started as a story became a rant and then became a sort of manifesto. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed creating it. And more importantly, I hope that you guys think about it. Like I said, it is the shortest episode that I've ever done. And what I hope for you, what I wish for you, is that you will take the time that you would have normally spent listening to a longer episode, and you will get out there in nature or sit in a coffee shop with a pen and paper and write out some thoughts about the things that I have to say and whether or not they are true for you and whether or not they are affecting you. That, I would say, is this week's homework. And regardless of the fact that I tell you not to in the episode, you are always welcome to comment on the blog post and share your thoughts, share your opinions, and engage. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy my rant on technology. Over the last month or so, I've had a handful of the most productive days in recent memory. Days where I managed to check off tasks that have been on my to-do list for weeks, months, or even years. Days where I look down at the calendar only to realize that it's already 2 o'clock and I haven't even stopped to pee. And here's the crazy thing. These insanely productive days haven't come out of any new app, service, or habit. They haven't been the result of increased meditation, changing my diet, or a trendy new workspace. In fact, I can only credit them to one thing, a thing that I originally perceived as a bug. Let me explain. About a month ago, I spoiled myself with a brand new iPhone X. Almost immediately, I really liked the device. But there was just one problem. Because of the way the screen is shaped, there is no longer any room for the little taskbar icons that you might be used to. No Bluetooth icon, no battery percentage, and most importantly, for the purposes of this rant, no do not disturb icon. For the first few days of using the device, this drove me mad. I would wake up in the morning, shut off my alarm clock, and roll out of bed, forgetting to turn off the do not disturb feature until late in the day, if at all. I missed calls from my girlfriend. I missed so-called urgent messages from colleagues. I missed the few notifications that I still get on a daily basis, letting me know of important things coming up. It was, I believed at the time, a disaster. This pissed me off so much that I even sent a stream of angry tweets and support tickets to Apple themselves. But then I realized something. On those select few days where I had tragically missed all of these important messages and notifications, I'd been more productive than ever before. Now I know what you're thinking. I've talked about minimizing notifications on the air before in at least half a dozen episodes. And for the most part, I follow most of my own advice. I have no notifications for mail or Instagram or any other social app. I use Rescue Time to lock me out of distracting websites if I'm wasting my time on maker days. Heck, I even deleted Facebook from my phone altogether. But even with all of those distraction-killing habits, you know how it is. You get into the office in the morning and you decide to check your emails and messages while you drink your coffee, just to get caught up before dealing with your real work. One message leads to another, and then another, which leads to a discussion with another team member, and then before you know it, it's lunch. Shit. Just by allowing my mornings to turn into afternoons and evenings in this way, I recently discovered that I was losing over 20% of my time just to communication and scheduling. 20 freaking %. What's more, even if you do manage to put on the brakes and minimize the majority of distractions using tools and strategies like the ones I mentioned above, I've realized that a significant amount of distractions still break through my many filters. Slack notifications from staff members, Asana notifications of tasks awaiting my attention, and who could forget, Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, both of which you can't sign out of. Do you remember in the 90s when you could log out of Skype or AOL Instant Messenger and then nobody could send you messages? This contact is not online, it would say. Try again later. Today, by contrast, that option has disappeared, and thus we all live in fear of becoming disconnected, from taking a brief, momentary respite from the endless onslaught of pings and dings and red bubbles, dreading the moment when we finally do log on and have to slog through all of the catch-up. Don't believe me? Pay special attention to the first 5 minutes after a flight, even a 3-hour flight, when it lands on the runway. I'd like to know, when did we all agree to be available and distractible to everyone, everywhere, all the time? Did any of us actually give our consent to this immense intrusion into our lives? Now, you might not think it's a big deal, but you'd be missing the big picture. Indeed, though I endeavor to be distracted as little as possible by my phone during the day, these small distractions are far more damaging than most of us could even imagine. As I myself discussed in my productivity course, and even in a recent interview with Stephen Kotler, the world-renowned expert on flow states, every distraction, no matter how little, takes you out of focus for about 15 minutes. That's right. Even that little glance over to process the fact that CaliDude557 liked your photo on Instagram, or that Zara has a 15% sale on its winter fashions, costs you 15 minutes of getting back into the swing of whatever you were working on. If you consider the fact that most of us, especially those of us in group chat applications like Slack or WhatsApp, get a notification on our phones every minute or two, you come to a shocking realization. Most days, we don't give ourselves a single opportunity to get focused, much less to get into flow. It's no wonder we're stressed, overwhelmed, and unhappy. We've cut one of the most important and satisfying mindsets of our lives, our right to free and unencumbered thought, and we're struggling to find a way through the noise. We live in a constant state of reactivity, trying to keep our heads above water in a sea of chatter and distraction, most of it non-urgent, if not completely irrelevant. As countless people like Y Combinator's Paul Graham, Basecamp's David Heinemeier Hansen, and even little old me have told you time and time again, good, creative work and thinking require long, uninterrupted blocks of time, at least 3 to 4 hours, free from distraction of any form. So even if you, like me, make every effort to minimize digital distractions, which, let's face it, most of you do not and have already been notified and distracted at least twice since starting this podcast, the real truth is that it really is all or nothing. Either you've turned off the Wi-Fi and left your phone in the other room while you're writing, or you're keeping the door open just enough for distraction to creep in and strangle your thoughts into a chokehold. If this unexpected, accidental experiment has taught me anything, it's that there simply is no gray area. This week, I began watching Discovery Channel's documentary, Manhunt, the Unabomber. And it tells the story of Jim Fitzgerald, the FBI profiler tasked with catching academic-turned-terrorist Ted Kaczynski, and how he actually got sucked in to Kaczynski's message and philosophy. Indeed, though the Unabomber's acts of violence were reprehensible and unforgivable and disgusting, the viewer can't help but be sucked in to agreement as well. You see, as far back as the 1980s and 90s, people on the fringe, like Ted Kaczynski, warned that technology in our lives was limiting our freedoms and our happiness. And that was 2 decades before we all began carrying around an electronic leash that gave others unrestricted access to us at any time of the day. Of course, unlike Kaczynski, I'm not saying that we should destroy technology or burn down the society that's built upon it. Unfortunately, we are far too deep and far too dependent to even slow down the pace of technology's progress or its ability to sink its tentacles deep into our lives and our psyches. I'm just saying that we should put up a fight. I'm saying that we should be aware that the technology in our lives brings a tremendous amount of good and yet a tremendous amount of bad. Aware that the devices we carry around are powerfully narcotic. They are very intentionally designed and programmed to ingrain themselves into our lives like a virus and have quickly become the most widely addictive and life-altering of any object we have access to. They disturb our sleep. They disturb our relationships. They disturb our work. And yet we hand them out freely to both adults and children with a smile. If you go back and you listen to the creators of these devices, people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates in their early days, you hear myopic predictions of how these devices would go on to empower us, how they'll become a bicycle for the mind, amplifying our inherent abilities and allowing us to become superhuman, true instruments of liberation, creativity, and prosperity. But a bicycle is only an instrument of liberation if you can get off of it. If you're shackled in, unable, afraid, and unwilling to remove yourself from it, it quickly becomes an instrument of torture, exploitation, and enslavement. So, what can you do to make it stop? Disconnect. Take a week-long vacation without your emails. Turn off your goddamn phone when someone is talking to you. Make use of the do not disturb function when you're trying to work. Stop replying to messages the moment or even the day that they come in, and start training the people around you to do and expect the same. Remember, technology is here to serve you in achieving your goals and your purpose, not the other way around. I hope this episode has given you something to think about. I'd love to encourage you guys to share your thoughts and comments on our website, but the truth is, I'd rather not have the distraction. All right, super friends, that is all we have for you today. But I hope you guys really enjoyed the show, and I hope you learned a ton of actionable information, tips, advice that will help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, or drop us a quick little note on the Twitter machine at GoSuperhuman. Also, if you have any ideas for anyone out there who you would love to see on the show, we always love to hear your recommendations. You can submit on our website, or you can just drop us an email and let us know. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.